My friends, as we look to Genesis chapter 1, beginning in verse 6, we get the second day. And God said, "Let there be a dome in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters." So God made the dome and separated the waters that were under the dome from the waters that were above the dome, and it was so. God called the dome sky. And there was evening and there was morning, the second day. One of the fascinating things about this ancient creation story is that it was most definitely put down in a certain historical context. Most biblical scholars believe it was probably penned during the Babylonian exile. Not to say that the Hebrews didn't have their own traditions of creation and that it wasn't talked about and told and passed down from generation to generation, but perhaps it was then that they needed to sit down and pen their story because they were living in a world that had another creation story, another account of creation. Simon Oliver has written this wonderfully helpful book called Creation, A Guide for the Perplexed. He offers in the introductory comments of the book something that many authors have noted, that these old creation myths aren't scientific at all. In fact, the word myth doesn't necessarily communicate falsehood. What a myth ultimately is a story or a narrative that conveys something of a truth, whether or not it's a factual truth, a scientific truth, or if it conveys a value truth. Most importantly for the ancient Near East, these creation stories were talking about their national identity, their politics. So the creation stories give rise to the stories that kind of shape their place within the region or the world. And their gods, their creators, resemble something of their national identity and their national relationship to other international alliances or foes. And one of the ancient Near East stories that he talks about, Simon Oliver, he's a priest and theologian in UK, has been talked about and observed by biblical scholars and theologians for years and years. And he's referring to what is called the Enuma Elish. In English, it's called the Epic of Creation. And in that story, order is brought at creation, and it's done this way. The gods are formed from the male Apsu, representing subterranean fresh water, and the female Tiamat, which is he says a bovine sea creature. Like, think of a sea monster. And she represents the salt water of the oceans. Now, there's this violent and chaotic battle that ensues between some of these gods, including Tiamat and Marduk, who is made king of the gods as a reward for having established good order and peace. So Marduk then, after overcoming Tiamat, he creates the sky and earth from Tiamat's body to take on the labor of the higher gods. Marduk creates human beings from the earth's clay mixed with the blood of Kingu, Tiamat's malicious ally. This is all Simon Oliver. When Enuma Elish was written, Marduk was the national god of Babylon and establishing his prominence. Enuma Elish is as much concerned with politics and Babylon's dominance over other regional cultures, particularly the southern city-states of the old Sumeria religion, as it is with cosmogony. Why do I say that now on this day where we have this notion of the waters in the sky creating a dome or heaven, and the notion of earth being created below? Well, quite simply, we can see that God is creating borders and boundaries, and the ancient Hebrews are talking about the difference between sky or the heavens and the earth. And in the ancient world, there's a debate over what heavens mean. In fact, there's more than one word or space in the imagination for heavens. The atmosphere, and is it the stars in the sky, and is it the place where God lives and all that? But God is establishing early in the story order. And that's the important point to me. It's about this order. Because if you put this story in the context of the Enuma Elish and other stories, you have a creation there that is coming out of chaos and battle. So like the foundation of your universe is born out of war. And the people are made from the body of the dust, right? And this is the corpse of a god that came out of the sea, that created the land. And so the humans are made out of this chaos and violence. But in the creation narrative of the Hebrew Scriptures, God is creating peaceably. God says, let there be, and makes distinctions of things the diversity of life, the eco-diversity, right? The biodiversity, and looks at it, and it's deemed good. It's not deemed chaotic. It's not deemed domineering towards others. In fact, the story would tell the people that they are subservient to a God who has some care over the order of creation. So on the first day, there is a fundamental separation between heavens, the sky, and the earth. And God looks and says, "It is good."